Hey, welcome back everybody. This is the next and final segment of the 4-liter inline Jeep engine build. Now, to say that I procrastinated on this build is the understatement of the year. Some of you that may remember this that have been following for a while, we did this build like 3 years ago. This thing's been wrapped up in plastic ever since. You might remember the episode where I was going to work on the cylinder head and then I discovered that it was cracked and I had to find a head. And I actually found a head a long time ago, and I'll show you a few shots of us building that. Actually, Mrs. Vintage Iron helped me build that. She does some machine work and stuff too. So we got that coming up. I'll insert that in here somewhere. But we've got the cylinder head. We're going to button up the top of the engine. The first thing you want to do though, one of the things that the Jeep 4-liter has in common with LS motors actually is you cannot put the lifters in the engine with the head on or take them out. You got to put the lifters in first. So I'm going to get the lifters in here and then we're going to go ahead and get the cylinder head on and button this thing up. All right, now as far as the lifters go, you can see that right alongside the cylinders here, the lifters bores are down in here. I put a light on that. Hopefully you can see those okay. But I always use a magnet to do this. But one of the things that's really important here to remember is that these are flat tappet lifters, so we need to make sure we put a generous amount of Moly Graphite assembly lube or something like that, cam lube on the bottom of those. And then we're just going to go ahead. You can use a magnet or you can use some long needle nose pliers. All right, so you can see it can be a little bit challenging to get those lifters in. You can see I've got that one in there. What I do, once I get my assembly lube on there, I have a magnet. I have a couple of magnets here actually, and I just use my magnet to kind of fish that down in there. And it makes it a lot easier to locate that lifter. You just got to kind of finagle it in there. And this is basically how you would do it. Just kind of line it up with the hole and get it in. Once you get it lined up there it goes. So just take each lifter one at a time and kind of use a magnet and finagle them, and you got to get them all in. I'm going to go ahead and get all the lifters in and we'll come back and talk about this cylinder head. All right, you guys, so now you can see we've got all of our lifters in with the assembly lube. Another thing that I would recommend, one of the things about the Jeep 4-liters and some of the other Jeep engines as well, they don't have any dowel pins for the gasket. I made these like years ago. The first 4.0 I did was, I don't know, probably in 2005 or whatever, and I made these. They were rusted up, so I just wire brushed them off here. But I took a couple of 1/2-inch bolt hole. So today I got a real treat for you guys. Mrs. Vintage Iron, who works with me, has for a long time, has decided to allow herself to be filmed. Hello, Mrs. Vintage Iron.
Hello.
You're looking lovely today. So what are we working on here today, Mrs. Vintage Iron?
This is our replacement head for the Jeep.
Oh, nice. What is that thing you're working with there, Mrs. Vintage Iron?
Well, this is the setting fixture.
Uh-huh.
And this is the adjustable seat cutter. And with that, we're going to cut a counter bore in our head to press the new seat in.
Why do we need new seats? What happened here?
Because over time, this seat gets pounded in with use.
Oh, okay. That's our new valve, but the old valves hammered that out, I guess, huh?
Right,
Yeah,
it hammers this out.
Yeah, you can really see how they got hammered out.
Yes, and we need to cut it just a tiny bit smaller than the seat.
So why is that?
So that the seat will not fall.
Oh, so it has to. That makes perfect sense. Okay, okay. You got your cutter set?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to show us how to cut a counterbore?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Okay, let's do this.
All right. Oh, look at that. We are cutting a counterbore. You look like a real professional there, Mrs. Vintage Iron. Am I bugging you?
Yeah, you're bugging.
All right, let's take a look at our counterbore cutter.
we vacuum all this out and get it all cleaned up, we can press our new seat in there.
Should we show them how to press seat in?
Sure.
Okay. So this is our seat driver. There's our seat. We kind of just got it started in there. And then we just take we put our pilot in there and we take our seat driver and then it's a press fit. Now this one's sticking up a little bit, but that's okay because we're gonna cut that. Or I should say Mrs. Vintage Iron is gonna cut that, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, but basically, so what did we do here, Mrs. Vintage Iron? We restored the
seat.
the hammered out seat, and then we'll cut the angles on it later on. So, all right, well, I'm going to let you put the rest of these seats in, and then I'll come back and check your progress, and we'll go on from there. What do you think?
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, well, hurry up, get to work. So, we got new springs that match the RV cam we put in here. We did a valve job, we resurfaced it, and now it's just a matter of dropping it on. Now, one thing I would say is that there's actually a lot of parts available for the 4.0 engine. You can get, you can stroke this, and I believe make it like a 4.7, so you can get stroker cranks and pistons and rods and so forth. And Edelbrock also has a really nice head for this. It's an aluminum head, a Performer head, and I've heard good things about it. In this situation, because of the way the budget was now, let me say this, the reason that it's been, I don't know, 2 or 3 years since we started this is mainly because the customer kind of backed out of this deal. We ended up putting a 5.7 Hemi in his Jeep. So he wanted to go that route. Turned out to be a cool swap, but that's a whole nother story. So anyway, here's the deal. We're going to stick with the cast iron head and the 4-liter crank, and these engines are just fantastic engines. I mean, if you got a Jeep and you want to go out 4-wheeling and you need a lot of low-end grunt and torque, and you need something that's durable and is going to last a long, long time, man, you just cannot beat these 4.0 Jeep engines. They are, in my opinion, they are one of the best engines ever for this type of vehicle, for an off-road type vehicle or something that needs to, you know, a lot of low-end torque, even if we want to pull a little trailer or whatever. But you're off-road and you're rock crawling, you're hill climbing, this is absolutely, right, this is what you want. So, and by the way, this engine's going to be for sale at the end of this video too, because, yeah, I ended up owning this. All right, so let's put the head on. So we are very simply just going to come up to the engine, line up your dowels with your bolt holes, and drop the head on. And when I say drop it on, I don't mean drop it. And now you can see we've got our dowels in here that are aligning it. Before you take those out, go ahead and get some of the other bolt holes in and get them snugged up. So now another thing I would say here, you guys, is, man, don't mess around with used head bolts. You could buy ARPs, which are the best. They really are the best. But Fel-Pro and some of these other manufacturers actually have stock replacement head bolts that are pretty good. I recommend just go ahead and get new head bolts. Don't try to use those old ones. So, and also on the 4-liter, what I would encourage you to do is you got to put sealer on the threads down here, because the bolt holes, most of the bolt holes go into the cooling system. So you want to seal the head bolts and then go ahead and put them in. Now, I actually have used Loctite quite a bit for this, but I can't find my Loctite right now, or I'm out of it. It's okay to use just a gasket type sealer on this. You just don't want coolant seeping up the bolt hole and leaking. So once you get the sealer on there, just put them in and make sure you seal all of them. That way you don't have any problems with leakage. And once you get those in, I won't do it all on camera. I'll get all these in and we'll come back and we'll torque them. Next, I've got the new bolts in, and then we want to torque them. Now you want to torque these in 3 steps. The final torque on these is 100 foot-pounds. So you want to split that in 3, and I just do 35, 65, and 100. I've already got these torqued in sequence to the first 2 steps. So we're going to go ahead and do our final torque to 100 here. And you want to start in the middle of the head. So we're just going to torque from the middle out. And then I want to go diagonally to this bolt here. Once I get that one done, I want to go diagonally back over here. And you want to do this in a crisscross pattern. So you see how I did an X pattern there? So now I've got the first 6 from the center out in a diagonal pattern. Now I'm going to go from this one here back up this way. Then we're going to go diagonally back down to this one here. Then we'll come back across to here. And then finally back here. Now we want to go back up front, and we're going to go diagonally to the front bolt. Go diagonally back to the back bolt. Back up front. And then of course the last one diagonally back to the back. And then you want to go check them all. And you want to count 14 head bolts on the Jeep. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. When I count like that, it assures that I didn't miss anything. We're pretty sure we didn't, but you want to make sure. And then always take and zero out your torque wrench. Take the tension off of it. Don't let it sit with tension on it. It'll damage the spring mechanism in here. Okay, heads on. Okay guys, so I've got all the rockers on. I've got them torqued to spec. Another thing, one check that you need to do is make sure that you got movement here. Some of the valves are going to be open, so just go through and check and make sure that that plunger has movement. That way you know you're in your valve adjustment. You don't want any of these too tight to where they don't move. If they are tight, you need to rotate the engine and come off of the cam lobe. I can see that one's open. So I've got movement on every one of these except these 2 right here. If I rotate the engine, it's going to take those valves are going to close. So there we go, there's that one. Yeah. So they've all got movement now. But I don't have any slop. So I know I'm in the travel of that plunger on the lifter. And that is how you install your rockers on the Jeep. I do not have any of the pan bolts or any of that stuff for it, but the pan does come with it. So I hope you enjoyed this series. I know it took me a while. If you look in the background over there, right over there, I'll zoom in on that. That is the 351 cleaver motor. That's going to be the next thing on the agenda here. So I'm getting real close to ready to do that. And I know it was a long time. I'm going through and trying to button up all the stuff that I haven't, that I started and didn't finish. So the 351 cleaver is going to happen. The Jeep is done. I also have one final video on the Pontiac 350 build. That thing's like 92% done. And that's coming up. I've already shot a lot of that video. Basically all I got to do is put the water pump and the valve covers on that thing and it's done. So again, I hope you enjoyed the Jeep build. Sorry it took so long to get back to this, but yeah, if you have any questions or anything, comments, let me know. Fantastic little motor. I love these Jeep engines. Some of the Jeeps and the Cherokees I've had in the past with these engines, I just absolutely love them. So if you're a Jeep fan, this series is for you. So I appreciate you watching, and I will talk to you very soon, I promise.